afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Come in quietly, quickly, and slowly. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, so I'm going to first welcome you to the first NLCS Speaks. Quickly find your seat. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Give a hand clap to the first NLCS Speaks, everyone. So let me explain what this is, and then I am going to pass the microphone. NLCS Speaks is for you. It is for you to create a topic of interest and get on the stage and talk about it. It is not an assembly. It's not an assembly. It is a way for you to connect with an audience. It's not an assignment. So it's not something that a teacher made you research. It's something that you actually love. And you get to talk about it on this stage. Now, if you have stage fright, what you can do is send me a video recording of you talking about what it is that you think is your passion. Do I want you reading off a paper? No. Can you put together a creative video about something you absolutely adore? Yes. Do I want you to have a script? No. I want you to speak English from your heart, not your head. And the reason we came up with this is because when I see you walking in the hallway and you're speaking Korean, you're like, yeah. And then when you switch to English, you're like, hello, Mrs. Daniel Samasa, how are you today? And then you go into the cafeteria and you're like, yeah. And then you're like, welcome to my presentation today. I am going to speak to you about, you have formalized English to a default, to an impediment to you. So I want you to understand that this language also can be part of your personality. And this is the stage where you can do it. So if you're interested, make sure you send me an email. So now I'm going to pass it over to Fred. Give him a hand. That's all. And he will be, today is a special one. It's a little bit different. The next ones will be a free-for-all, so you can talk about what you want to speak about. Today we're going to kind of segue into International Women's Day, and I'm backing up because I'm giving the mic to Fred.
Okay, so the International Women's Day is next week, 8th of March, and the very first NLCS Speaks is going to be used to theme on International Women's Day. And some of you, maybe boys, maybe grown-up men, young men, might be thinking, okay, International Women's Day, it's not my thing, I'm not a woman, so it doesn't matter. Okay, that is exactly the opposite to what we want to bring you to here, because it is quite relevant to both men and women, what we're about to deliver. So if you're a man, you're a growing man, please sit tight to what we're going to present. But first, the CAC, who we are. Everyone come out.
Good afternoon. We are the CAC, and today we're here to present to you about the International Women's Day. So this is our mission statement for this year, and we want you all to be global citizens, to be aware of the diverse cultures around the world, and to learn about the achievements of women, how they are changing the world today. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name's Leo. Thank you all for coming. I know it might be very boring for you, but we'll try to make it as interesting as we can. Now, the history. I know all of you guys here, or actually some are year 10, so I don't know, take history, and you might find this boring, but let me tell you, this is not boring at all. So, before I continue on what the history of International Women's Day is, I'd like to tell you what the International Women's Day is about. International Women's Day is dedicated to celebrate the achievements of women throughout history, as well as promote women's rights. Now, with this big goal in mind, let's move on to the history. This is another picture of women marching in New York, protesting for the International Women's Day. And yeah, okay, so the history. Does anyone like butterflies? Can you raise your hand? Thank you, Mrs. Cole. Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Well, butterflies are very interesting, and I think that the International Women's Day was possible because of the butterfly effect. Now, in 1908, February 28th, there was the garment workers' strike in New York. 15,000 women in New York, workers, decided that they were being underpaid and that they were working in harsh conditions. So they wanted to change things. So they marched in the streets of New York, and this inspired people from all over the world to try and join this movement. Now, due to this event, the Socialist Party of America dedicated this day as the original National Day for women. Then it got further elevated into the International Women's Day on an international conference in Copenhagen, Denmark. A lady called Clara Zetkin was the person who organized this event. Now, as you can see, due to this widespread and due to this event turning into something so popular, people from all around the world, Russians, for example, were all participating in the movement, and it eventually became the official date for this eventually became March 8th because it is translated from the Gregorian calendar. Now, because we don't have a lot of time, I like to put it there, and now let's see, why should we care?
Juno, let's go. Okay, it's you.
Hi, so I'm Meiju, and you guys might wonder, why do we even have to celebrate International Women's Day? That it is just another celebration that were just decided by themselves. But in fact, this is actually important. So there's a few reasons why we have to celebrate, obviously. First of all, it raises awareness of the International Women's Day, and it is the opportunity to promote our women's rights, and it is time for you to respect this day. Well, these are actually really obvious, but why should we actually care? Well, this is because International Women's Day is not a magic wand that you can automatically make a world peace, and it automatically makes you have non-violence related to a woman's right. International Women's Day, celebrating this is so important because it works as a lighthouse that constantly reminds you that women's right is actually important, and this is the day that we have to celebrate the effort that was actually made to happen this in 21st century.
So now the members of the CAC would like to talk about a few of the notable women in our society in order to further enrich the International Women's Day. So I will start off with Emma Watson. Emma Watson is a British actress, as most of you will know, and she's well known for her notable talents in acting, her outstanding appearance, and most importantly, her inner beauty and her strong beliefs. She's passionate about gender equalities and feminism, and she strives for both men and women's equal rights and opportunities. Now, she also stood and delivered a speech on the UN headquarters regarding the newly launching gender equality campaign called He for She campaign. Now, she also took few of the roles in the cast to actually promote the feminine texts and literatures and to show her mottos and beliefs. So this is Hermione Granger, and I'm from Harry Potter, and I'm not going to really explain that because everyone will at least once watched a movie or just read a book at least. So yeah. And this is Princess Belle from The Beauty and the Beast. And most of you might think that this is a princess. This goes against her belief of being independent and a courageous woman. However, the Princess Belle was not like any other princess like Cinderella's or the Sleeping Beauty. She was actually very strong, independent, and intuitive, and also very independent. And she helped lots of things by mechanics, fixing, inventing, and even just making up a laundry machine for her father.
Hi guys, my name is Lily Downs and I'm going to be talking to you about Frida Kahlo. Now Frida Kahlo was a Mexican painter who embraced her heritage deeply, and this is going to be shown in some of her paintings. Can you go to the next slide, please? So she embraced her Mexican heritage, which some viewed as masculine within the society that she lived in at the time, but instead of giving in to the society that she was living in, she decided to be completely natural and embraced her look. Thank you.
Okay, so hi, I am Dongmin, and Mary Curry. So Marie Curie is a chemist and a physicist, and some of her scientific contributions consist of the discovery of polonium and radium, and these discoveries are seen in real life today in X-rays and cancer treatment. So I chose Marie Curie not because that she was just a very spectacular scientist, but because she was a mother of two girls, Irene and Eve. Now, she did not give up one of her responsibilities for another, and simultaneously, she ran her duties of a scientist and a mother, caring for her daughters, even after her husband, Pierre, died, shortly after her second daughter, Irene, was born. And she was a single mother raising both of her children until the age of 66 when she died of exposure to radiation. Thank you.
Okay, clearly we're failing some of our jobs because some of you are sleeping. Since you guys are waving your hands at Dongmin, can you guys wave hands back at me? Awake? Okay, cool, everyone's awake. Okay, who knows about this woman? Anyone? Yeah? Guess. The name's there. It's very obvious. Okay, it's Margaret Thatcher. And she is by far the only woman British Prime Minister currently in history. And I do have to admit that Margaret Thatcher is a controversial figure. She used to be a conservative politician, and she's a very successful politician in her own career. But what I'm going to talk about here isn't really about the controversial politics that divides people, but what I'm going to merit about Margaret Thatcher is her choice to pursue the career that she went through. So if you read her quote, it says, "I am not a consensus politician, I am a conviction politician." What this means, if you sort of comprehend it in easy English, I don't follow what you guys think, I make you believe what I think, if you get my point. So she was a very headstrong character. If you also sort of read her quotes, to wear a heart on your sleeve isn't a very good plan. You should wear it inside where it functions best. She was called the Iron Lady, and she was, in the traditional so-called quotation marks, she was very masculine. I'm using quotations mark because there isn't such thing as masculinity, but she had the traditional understanding characteristics of having very risk-taking, very headstrong, very argumentative, and she wasn't really like any of those women who were sort of more traditional or conformed to it, although she did think that she was more ladylike. But she was very argumentative. I loved debate. And at the end, being powerful is like being a lady. If I have to tell people, you aren't. So she had this aura of very influence coming from her. And what is the thing that you need to learn about her? The point is, she chose to take on some of the characteristics that were considered masculine back then. And our society as a whole, what we should do is we should respect the choices of women who are taking on careers that are within men's field. And this also applies to men and vice versa. If men are so-called taking on children's duties or taking on roles in families, that should also be respected. And if Margaret Thatcher or any one of you sitting in this room is taking careers into politics where traditionally women would take, that should also be respected. And if a woman just wants to, for example, raise a family, that should also be respected. And what I'm trying to give you the message here is, whatever you do, you should be respected for it, and that is your career. Okay. Who's next?
Okay, so how do you think people around the world is working hard in order to show respect and raise awareness to women with different cultural backgrounds? So before we get into all the specific details and specific organizations, specific people, we just want to clarify what we mean by cultural variety. So we have divided into 3 subtopics, which is obvious: language, religion, and race. So
Is it not this page? Okay.
Can you go to previous slide? Back. Back.
Which one?
Okay, so there are a few ways you guys could work, show effort and raise awareness. And one of the ways that you guys could show respect is to accept people with different skin colors, to include the minority groups, back, and most importantly, communication. So, New Zealand's National Collective of Independent Women's Refuge is a women's refuge who employ staff members who can communicate in a variety of different language. So this women's refuge emphasized the fact that communication is the key factor in allowing us to accept not only women but people in general who have different cultural backgrounds. And next is IMCON. IMCON is an organization from the UK which supports Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, and refugee survivors. So this IMCON organization basically provides shelters for women who are Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, and refugee survivors. So, why do you guys have to know this? What's the purpose of us informing you? It's because this problem exactly directly applies in NLCS Jeju here. It's the language barrier between Korean language speaker and the non-Korean language speaker. And the most important message that we want to give to you is that communication is the key, as I said before, with the Women's Refuge in New Zealand. So communication, we want to emphasize the fact that we need to speak in a language where everybody can understand and everybody can participate in, so that anybody, whoever they are, what skin color they have, what religion they believe in, what race they are, what ethnicity they have, they need to be able to participate and be involved in any kind of activities, what everyone is doing, and any societies they're involved in. So that's the message that I want to give to you.
Cool. I wish we had more time, but we need to move on quickly since you guys petitioned to make the NLCS Speaks longer, okay? Okay.
Okay, so hello all, I'm Minuk, and today I'm going to talk about the role of men on International Women's Day and in our daily lives. So I think it's time for you boys to wake up and listen, and especially for the rugby boys. I know you guys are leaving school for rugby trip soon, so I want you guys to listen attentively and learn to not embarrass our school's name. Okay, so why is it so important to include men? Well, in the end, men comprise about half of the world's population, and we live together in our society. And therefore, whether you like it or not, the best way to call for action is to include all of us in conversation. Well, this is applicable to our daily lives because in tutor time, men and women are staying in one place. If you guys go up to IB, we'll listen to lectures together. And in the end, when you go to universities, half of the people you'll meet is different from your own sex. So you better know. So what would it mean to have a healthy masculinity? The answer to this is an allyship. So being an ally means being willing to act with and for others in order to end oppression and creating for equality. So while 77% of men said they are doing everything they can do to advance gender inequality in workplace, only 41% women agreed. So what can men do to be more effective allies? There are simple things. You just have to remember two. First, listen to women and pay attention to the specific ways in which they want help. For example, if a woman is walking with a heavy load on a hot summer day, don't just assume that they will need help, because they might take different to your own intention. So please ask if you want to offer help before, and know when to step back and step forward. And before I end, I'd like to hand over to Philip for the rest of the PowerPoint.
Well, actually, I am present as well.
Sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, we all get that. We all get that women are important. International Women's Day is important. So what do I need to do as an individual within NLCS Jeju? So I think it's basically two things. A, you should be aware of the fact that everyone should be included inclusively within our society or our community. But also I think it's very important for us to become very grateful for the fact that women and the previous efforts which made or facilitated you guys to live in such a grateful society so that you can be educated, you can have equal opportunities compared to that of men from the past. So with those mindsets, what are we going to do? Philip is going to introduce two events of the CSE.
Okay, this is Philip. Just introduce the events, what we're going to do.
Okay, so hello guys, I'm Philip. I think you guys are now smashed up with some bunch of information which might seem quite irrelevant to you. So what could you do more now in order to participate in International Women's Day? So this is the calendar which contains events which will be held during March. So first of all, tomorrow there will be an open fundraising in the Green Gallery during lunchtime and break time. You guys could come over and donate money, which will be used for women's education in Korea. And tomorrow there will be a tutor quiz, which will be about International Women's Day. So if you want to get higher marks for maybe a smiley cafe pass for the next term, then it will be good to revise or research a bit about International Women's Day. And as a student, I know you guys hate reading to like articles or long essays about International Women's Day. So the CAC have prepared a video which will be informative and which will contain information about International Women's Day. And other from what the CAC have organized, the Sports Council and the Arts Committee have also came up with events such as Girls Netball Tournament on Saturday and poetry performance. So please look forward to that, and there will be further emails or notices sent about International Women's Day. And now I'll pass over to Fred.
And we also have movies, inspirations, and fun activities. Please read it. But Ms. Daniel Samansa.
So once again, I want to first apologize a bit because this is not really what NLCS Speaks is going to be about, but we wanted to get started with just kind of introducing Women's Day. So now I'm going to show you an example of what NLCS Speaks will be like. How many of you have grandmothers? Anybody have a grandmother? Anybody have a grandmother? Oh, yeah, that's most of us, right? Okay, everybody has a grandmother. I have a grandmother. I did not put a slide up of my grandmother. She was 101 years old when she died. She lived alone. She cooked, she cleaned, she baked until the day she died. I did not want to put her picture up because I wanted you to hear about her. The wisest thing my grandmother said to me was to make a difference in the world. Grandmothers are important because we all in here have raised our hands, which means that we all have grandmothers that we love and adore. How many of you can think right now of the favorite food that your grandmother made for you or makes for you? Anybody? What's your favorite food? Does your grandmother cook for you? Yes? Yes? No? Give me a favorite food from your grandmother. Somebody said kimchi. My grandmother made pound cake. But for International Women's Day, we're not going to talk about the traditional roles of women. We're going to talk about the courageous women, the women who stood out. And my grandmother was one of those women because at 99, from 95 to 101, she was able to maintain by herself. I remember when I asked my grandmother, "Why don't you want us to move in with you?" And she said to us, "I don't like you that much." What she really meant was, I can do this by myself. And as we honor women, all of the women who've impacted us, let's think about the world and what the world would be if there were no women. You wouldn't even be here. I'm going to pass the microphone to Fred, and he is going to talk about his grandmother, and then we'll end with a video.
So, basically, I was sitting down with my grandparents and my mother, and we're talking about our past stories. Obviously, my past stories are a bit short. I'm 17 years old. Obviously, my grandmother was 84 years old when I had the discussion. And what really amazed me was that 84 years of experience. She was basically by the time born when, when there was sort of a Japanese colonization period, and she told me all these stories about she going through a lot of these Korean wars and many of the rapid development that happened in the Korean society. And I'm pretty sure you can ask your grandparents, your grandfathers about that too. And that is immense amount of your understanding of the world and how, like, into one person to one person experience, how it feels like to be there. But my grandmother wasn't that extraordinary. As obviously she cooked, she had children, my mom, and she also, let her grandfather pass away. And until this day, she makes me shike. And yes, and her shike is, don't be offended, it's the best thing in the world. And what you want to take from today's assembly is just value the women around you, how amazing they are. Even if they're not on the headlines of newses, you should recognize that your grandparents and your mothers, and even your fathers and grandfathers are amazing as they are. Yep, let's see the video. Do we have a video? Cool, we have a video.
Her hands, blistered and bleeding from the thorns that pierce her skin, the constant sting of needles nonstop. Her screams are in sync with sewing machine rhythms, except she's not being stitched. Her smooth melanin ripped. The scars of hard work, she balances weighted water with no problem, carrying the world on her shoulders with baby resting comfortably on her back. Like an Olympian, she's a champion. You can gracefully stride in stilettos, but your glide becomes slip and slide when you attempt to walk in her shoes. She manages to tuck them in soundly while bombs bombard her once peaceful surroundings. She melodically hums the verses from the Quran, and around her the war continues on. Her husband, she's widowed, yet she presses on. Her children now solely depend on her for solace. She creates a sense of normalcy as explosions shake her home, yet her foundation is solid. She has power while you strut in your Louis Vuitton mules. Your size 7 couldn't fit in her shoes. She watches the whispers and the stares, corns and calluses on her feet. They said she needs a pedicure. Her leathered hands wrinkled like raisins. They said she needs a manicure. But the cure she needs is from the sickness of people who judge her. Luxurious expenditures are lunchtime meals for her children, uniforms pressed and perfect, her lifelong investment so they'd have a better future. Your stilettos might be sharp, but you could not walk a minute in her flip-flops. As her youthful gait is gone, her back bent, a little crooked, yet she marches in syncopation because Her steps are ordered. Her trials and tribulations are not evident. She epitomizes the grace of Michelle Obama, the stamina of Hillary Clinton, the giving nature of Mother Teresa, and the wisdom of Maya Angelou. A queen is not deemed by her looks, but by what she knows. She's the prize. She is heaven sent. Her shoes don't have to click or clatter. No one can wear her shoes because size definitely matters. See you at the next NLCS Speaks. I hope to, if you are interested,
Thank you, everyone.